So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I know that the Bill Cosby thing is, I don't feel it's old news. And the reason why I don't feel it's old news is because a lot of the implications around the Bill Cosby trial are still going on, has been going on. You know, not just what Bill Cosby was accused of, but also how our court systems sort of kind of are, and it's a lot of conversations that are in that are sort of a part of this Bill Cosby conversation. You know, with African Americans in the court system, how the rich are sort of are treated differently, the rich and famous. And also from my perspective, I'm a spiritual person. We're both very spiritual people, the spiritual implications of it as well. So I think these different conversations are all a piece of this, you know, and the Innocent Project, you know, how the court system is, how being poor and black in this country is a crime in itself, right? And also just karma. You know, like you do bad, you get bad. So all these that sort of things are all intertwined into this conversation about Bill Cosby. So it's just not an open book situation. So it's something that has to be sort of dissected. And is everyone dissecting it? You know, I don't know. I don't tune in to get this overload of news. So I have to take it from, you know, bits and pieces. But this is our conversation and our perspective on this topic. So this is so we're inviting you in to hear our perspectives on this. So how do you feel when you first heard the news that Bill Cosby was
Oh, when it was overturned,
his
yeah,
sentence,
the
his
conviction was
conviction,
overturned.
yes,
Okay,
yes, exactly, his conviction.
okay,
When you first heard that his conviction was overturned, what were your thoughts?
okay. And as always, I'm giving my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not giving legal advice.
Right.
I
I'm
just
not one either.
provide. I provide perspective. I'm going to give a perspective, I guess, because of my media background and just reference articles and things as need be, since it was covered in the press. Honestly, I wasn't surprised that it was overturned particularly because of what happened. As we know that the information was with the case was presented in a way where it should have not been set up for Cosby to even be to go to jail. It was basically, as you were, I think we have talked this in conversation about the courts pretty much had violated his Fifth Amendment rights, and just to kind of break it down that way. And with information that you gave, and if you had worked out a deal where you wouldn't even have to go through this process of having another trial and being convicted, technically, from what I'm understanding, that wasn't even supposed to happen. He was not supposed to go to jail, and the courts pretty much violated that. So I look at this legally. I don't get emotional, and I know a lot of people in these kind of conversations get very emotional because of the subject matter. But I tell people in a situation, you got to kind of look at all the variables that was going on legally. And some of the things I've read, he'd always maintained like that the sexual encounters were consensual. So there's a lot of like different variations of that going on there. But in this case, because a lot of it was illegal, it was this illegal issue that, the courts, I'm going to use courts in this situation, that things happened that wasn't supposed to happen, which led to his release. So there was things that were not handled properly and that were allowed that shouldn't have happened, which caused him to go to prison. And then eventually his release, because he had a team working working for him to help him get out of prison. So that I look at the perspective of, it's also, you mentioned earlier about the kind of poverty component to it, because when an individual
if he was poor, he would still be behind bars.
He will still be behind bars. Someone would have to really take like be a good
Innocence.
citizen. Yeah, I don't know necessarily Innocence Project, but there would be somebody who would see that technicality situation happening in there, and they would have to say, from a legal perspective, and say, no, you can't do this. So yeah, but that was just like, I wasn't surprised by it, considering all the circumstances, and things were just kind of like, something happened here, something's happening here, but it always goes down to what's going on legally to say whether or not he continues to stay in there. So I wasn't surprised by it at all. I just said it's not like somebody messed up. I'm like, somebody messed up somewhere, and it led to this thing becoming even bigger than I think what it originally was. So I wasn't surprised.
I wasn't surprised either that he was, his conviction was overturned. I did feel as though, so this is how the conversation came up for me. I was having a discussion with another person about the conviction of it being overturned, and this woman, she felt as though, this is another case of, an African-American man being accused of something he didn't do. And of course, he has the money and the power enough to have the right people involved to make sure that things were looked at properly so that he could be have a fair trial. And I'm like, yes, that is true. I do feel that that is true, but also, reading what went wrong and how things did, what was said, what was done, how things were carried out, it spoke to, he has very smart people defending him. And I think that the judge, or I don't know if there was a jury involved or not, but ultimately they knew that sentencing him was not going to stick. They knew that the testimony that he gave, saying that he gave quaaludes to women, he knew that when he was saying it, that it was not going to be used. Well, it was agreed that it was not going to be used in court. And ultimately it was. Those individuals know that. They're lawyers and they're judges, and they are very well aware that you cannot use your own testimony to convict a person. You can't use that person's testimony to convict them. You can't incriminate yourself in a court. They all knew that. So they knew it wasn't going to stick. But I felt like they were going to get as much time out of him as they possibly could, because they felt as though he had committed a crime, and he has the money and the power to get around the law.
I'm very careful with the word "get around the law."
Get around the law.
Get around it. It's just kind of like the law is what it is. It's you you think in a perspective of like loopholes in law,
yeah,
and things like
loopholes.
that. And even, of course, that could be structured as an opinion. But I always just look at things as how it was presented, and unfortunately, this is unfortunately the situation carried out the way it did, to the point where the case ended up being the way it is. And I noticed, I felt this is my personal opinion, I just felt because a lot of it is just because of the individual being famous, so there's a notoriety, and him like being in the situation that he is. But I'm like, you have to understand, a person like Bill Cosby, even with this situation, being acquitted, it's a rare thing. If you want to look at probably the population of like people going to prison that looks like him, I'm like, this is really a rarity. And unfortunately,
rare meaning what? Rare that someone of his stature being
someone who's a black man getting acquitted for something like that. I mean, we have Black people in jail for probably lesser crimes that have served more time, but they don't have that notoriety. Who is there to help them reduce sentences, things like that? It brings out, I think it really shows a lot of inequalities in our justice system, in our legal system, and what could be done to address some of those those legal inequalities, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I feel like not every day people are arrested for giving, he had 50 plus accusers, women, saying that he, gave them, had sex with them while they were not conscious. That I don't hear that every day from anybody. That's not something that's typical.
But you mean
From
typical in the new, like, I mean, because we're not in the industry of legal industry. So we just say typically it's not presented to the public. Like it is not covered in, maybe not get all the attention, that it would normally get, because again, this is dealing with
So you
a
don't think
person's social status.
if you think there was a man out there who 50 plus women were accusing him of drugging them, having sex with them while they was unconscious,
Maybe
that wouldn't be newsworthy?
It wouldn't necessarily be exactly this case. It could be other variations. I mean, what's a big issue in this? One of the big issues right now in this country that a lot of people are still queasy about talking about, and that's human trafficking, particularly sex trafficking. So if you probably think from the perspective of the trafficking issue, then those numbers are there's probably some really numbers that are up there that in a lot of cases aren't even being like reported or covered, because who's reporting it, who's covering it. I always say things are happening. It doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to get to the point where it's going to get to somebody's police station or somebody's law office, but things are happening all the time in various degrees. So in one case, it could be somebody's being drugged. In another case, somebody's being lured to be sexually assaulted or sexually exploited. So it's various degrees in the sense of when you talk about issues dealing with sexual assault, sexual abuse, those kind of things.
So you're saying that is a possibility that if Bill Cosby wasn't, Bill Cosby, the brand, the man, the multi-millionaire, celebrity, and 50 women were all coming out, 50 plus women coming out saying that this man drugged me and had sex with me while I was unconscious, possibly gave me drugs because this reason why I was unconscious, that would be something that just would not get the media to, not saying it's going to be like media frenzy. This is Bill Cosby, but it wouldn't get the pickup and we wouldn't be hearing about this case at all.
I would say it depends on probably the unusualness of the case.
But that is unusual. I think 50 plus women saying that you drugged them, I think that's unusual.
It's unusual for that large amount. It could be. I mean, it depends on the state, what's happening in the news itself, that why would somebody who pretty much doesn't have like if you're not well known in the community, like I said, it has to be really unique, because especially when you're dealing with stuff on the media side, there's a lot of stories coming in, and your average news broadcast is how many minutes? You have 30-minute hour show.
Yeah, it's like 22 minutes
at the local level.
Yeah, it's like you get, I think it's less than a third is actually the show itself, most of it's just commercials. So you don't get a lot of news time, and it's not a lot of news dedicated to just people breaking the law, unless it's something that's so odd and so unnormal that it gets that kind of news attention.
Right.
And go ahead. So
for example, it's interesting, like if you notice, you always hear like Florida always have the weirdest news. So all those, there's like a law. Salts. There's like a law or something in Florida, I think, with some of the arrests. It's like things are made public. So a lot of anything and probably any and everything that gets reported and it becomes public knowledge, you can pull it up and make a story. That may not happen in other states, but I think Florida is one of those states where that happens. And that's why you get so much content coming out of Florida, because of the access people have to find out like public records and so forth. So if you go and check these public records and something weird happens in Florida, you can do a story out of it. And then that's why Florida has the recognition it has. So can you imagine if other states had similar laws like that? You probably have similar, like this, the stories coming out of those states because of the laws that are in place. So, that's a factor that comes in too. How much of it, when these things are reported, are they reported? And then once they get into these kind of databases and so forth, how many people are looking at them to do stories and so forth? Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting how, information is presented to the public.
Yeah, because I believe that news is created. News is made. And there's even situations where people time like this story will be news on this day, and choosing a time and that this is going to be become news.
Right. So, that's what PR people do.
That's what PR people are paid for.
Yeah, they get paid to make news for their organization. Yeah.
So do you feel as though, my issue with it is, and I don't feel like any laws should not be broken to get someone, to arrest someone. You should be arrested for the crime that you do. And you should have a fair trial. All the laws should be followed when, in any case. There should never be a time where we're not following the laws. Even if you believe someone has done something wrong, or you believe that someone's breaking the law, you have to put them on trial for the law that they breaking, and also follow the protocol that comes along with that. And obviously for the Bill Cosby situation, it was not followed because, the law is that a person can't incriminate themselves with their own testimony. And that was broken, and that was a technicality that he, that overturned his sentence, from what I've read. But then there's the other thing about, hey, this man, from what I believe, and based on what I've read and listened to the women who come forth and said that they were drugged and raped by Bill Cosby, that I believe what they said. I think these women are women who can be believed. A lot of them are actresses and models. I think that, this man has a problem. He really has a screw is loose. A couple of screws are loose. So, and so I don't feel like he should have went to jail based off what the prosecutors were trying to prosecute him with. But still, undeniably, from my perspective, he does have some screws loose.
Well, I don't know Cosby or any folks personally, so I can't make mental health, personality judgment on it. I'm just one of those type of people, and I know I've said this before. It just seems, I don't know, I just look at it. I look at the time period it happened and what was going on. Me personally, I would stay clear of those kind of environments where those things typically take place. You can call me somebody conservative for that. I go by the fact that they're the actions and again, legally speaking, like these things that he was accused of is alleged. Unfortunately, I wish that when I hear stories like this, I wish the situation would have like if they felt they were taken advantage of or rape or whatever, if that's what they're saying, I wish these things would come out sooner and not let a person's social status or celebrity status get in the way of getting justice. That seems to come up.
And some of them took money and they were paid off, and that's the reason why they didn't talk, they didn't say anything. And
so those things like things like that. I guess I'm a very justice seeking person personally, so I would like to if I can pursue the justice component of it. If there's agreements made, then those agreements need to be and stay in a place. And if if things are, and especially if they're legal, because any violation of it, it's going to have repercussions, and things can go all over the places, which is going to sound like what the situation happened with Cosby, with Bill Cosby's case. I do look at him now as somebody older, and I said I sense with him he's 83, he's now 83, and I think I sense there's some kind of I don't like to use the word mental decline, but there's definitely something there, because he's not like how you may see some of the other people who get out and speak. They're always like in front of the cameras, they're talking in front of mics. Everything is happening through a spokesperson now. And usually I think in a lot of those cases, that could be something. I think there's some health issues going on there with him, is why we don't really see him talking like to the press and all that.
Do you think his health issues now, the ones that he's experiencing now, had, have had impact? That was one of the reasons that he was, some of the things that are showing up now, that's just clearly evident that he has some mental capacity issues. Do you think some of those mental capacity issues was some of the reasons for his behaviors in the 70s and 80s?
No, I just think part of it now. I mean, now we're looking at this, it's part of, just part with some people, not all people. It's an aging issue. I think probably in the past, my interpretation is just the lifestyle he was around during that time period. I mean, that's just kind of, in that industry, it's just what it is. It's just, Hollywood isn't necessarily known as a very friendly place in that respect. It's not. I mean, we know there's a lot of kind of
the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, right?
Those
the whole
kind
Me
of
Too
things.
movement.
Yeah. It's very interesting to see how that's another topic, the Me Too movement itself, and some of the challenges that's going on now within some of the leadership and things involved in that. So I just look at it as just kind of like, unfortunately, the culture, it's not always a healthy culture. I'm really out because I'm into issues around human trafficking, sex trafficking, and especially abuse of minors. That's always been some of the concerns about that industry for me, and just how a lot of people have turned a blind eye to things because of people who have power, and it allowed this to go on for so long. And again, the repercussions that comes out years later. So it's one of those things when I hear Hollywood, I'm kind of just like, yeah, you may have to kind of just like, yeah, just step back from
so
some
you
of those
think
things.
that you've become, or we've become, I don't know, I would say numb, or for lack of a better word, maybe numb, but it's sort of, we maybe look
Not
over.
necessarily numb. It's just been known as part of the culture for so long. So it's kind of like, it is what it is, if that makes sense. So not exactly.
No, I get what you're saying. You're saying that, the stuff that we had out of Hollywood is so crazy sometimes, and it's sort of expected. So when we hear crazy stuff sometimes out of Hollywood, it's like, we go.
Some people say, people call it? I hear people call it Holly weird. They say, "Oh, Jackie, that's Holly weird." I'm just like, "Oh, that's a new weird," but that's a new
I've
one.
heard that phrase before too. That, so it's sort of like, there is a low expectation, or it gets a 5 minutes people's attention, and people are in shock and awe, and then it's like, oh well. So that mentality also, I think, is a part of it too. I don't think it's a healthy mentality, that we sort of look over certain things and go, oh well, that's Hollywood, and there are individuals who are maybe crying out saying, this happened to me, it was horrible, I was afraid to say anything because this person was powerful, or I didn't accept this money for to keep quiet, and then we go, oh, it's Hollywood, whatever. You signed
not everybody, some people. Some people.
There's some
yeah.
Some people, in terms of, are looking over things and saying, oh, it's Hollywood, or people saying that the person who's been victimized saying, oh well, I'm not going to say anything because this person is in power and it may affect my chances of having success in Hollywood. Which one are you referring to?
But I just get concerned because I just see it as culture. I remember just growing up hearing stories about, because I was always at one point, I was, because of the communications work and the television work I did, I've always heard about kind of the stories that come from Hollywood. That's why I've always been big on doing my own thing. The things about, the stories about the casting couch and things like that. So there was this weird like thing coming out. I used to always hear there's always like some connection about if that's like kind of sleeping your way to get in or get to the top kind of thing. So it didn't seem like, it didn't seem like a healthy environment to want to pursue and be in. Just my take. That's sometimes it's just like, and I'm just always surprised to hear stories how people get, they get caught up in, I think they get caught up in the hype and the celebrity of the person and so forth and so on. But this person is still like a human being at the end of the day, and they're capable of doing good and bad things. And because they have this public image as a celebrity, and they're put on a pedestal, which is a big mistake to do. It's like, do not put celebrities on the pedestal. Do not make them your spokesperson, all that kind of stuff. Don't do it. They're human beings just like you. And unfortunately, situations like this do happen. And in a lot of cases, there are legal things. People are signing legal agreements to keep their mouth shut because they don't want the bad press.
And those women, I think, did not say anything in the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s because they, number one, I think many of them settled out of court and signed non-disclosure agreement in NDAs, accepted money, felt that it was going to impede their ability to succeed in that business. So I felt like those are reasons why no one said anything. And do you feel that since they didn't say anything, even if they accepted money or they didn't accept money or they was in fear that they would jeopardize their careers, do you feel that since they didn't say anything in the 70s and 80s and 90s and however long it was since the incident actually happened, should they be saying anything now or when they finally did in the 2020s?
That's kind of a hard question because a hard question to answer because again, that you start getting that legal thing again. So it's a matter of whether or not they did sign any agreements.
Yeah,
now,
if
they didn't sign agreements, then you're good to go because you're not under any kind of
But they have a statute of limitations though, because
Well, that would be the legal component. What's the statute of limitations? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Each state or city, what have you, they have their own kind of laws around that, and unfortunately, that happens. That's kind of, I guess, that might be kind of also similar with the whole Emmett Till situation, right?
For years, I've used medicinal herbs because they are a great way to flush your kidneys and gallbladder, strengthen your immune system, de-stress your heart, and increase proper blood flow. Medicine Man Plant Co. is a Texas-based company that believes in using state-of-the-art best practices enforced by the FDA to ensure the best quality of herbs. Their herbs are blended from the world's best ancient plants and mushrooms, proven effective across thousands of years. Medicine Man Plant Co. uses modern science to powder and compress easy-to-swallow herbal capsules. They are powerful quality herbs that help you stay healthy. Try their Stone Breaker Pill if you want to flush your kidneys and gallbladder. The Blood Pressure Pill will help promote proper blood flow and circulation and also addresses high blood pressure. The Uric Acid Pill will keep your joints and extremities clean and pain-free. So go to www.medicinemanplantco.com to begin receiving herbal medicine like the liver pill which will power up and protect your liver and detoxify your body, or even the immune pill that'll defend your body and support and strengthen both your innate and active immune systems. Again, that's www.medicinemanplantco.com. Which one do you mean?
Isn't that, I don't know if that's one of the similar cases with, it's like when people are now starting to reveal that, that they weren't honest about what happened with the situation with Emmett Till, saying that, oh, well, he didn't do this, Emmett Till didn't do these things, and he was, murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And no one came.
And Emmett Till was a young man back in, I think, the 50s.
The 50s. Mm-hmm.
Where a white woman said that he whistled. He was originally from New York City, visiting family in the South. I can't remember exactly what city it was in the South, but in the South, and he was whistling at a so-called whistling at a white woman, just what she said. And later that night, several white men came to his family's house. I can't know if it was his uncle or his aunt who was visiting, and took him with them. And then when they found him again, he was, body was basically decomposing in a lake, in a river.
Right. Well, he's from Chicago, so just make sure
I'm sorry. He was from Chicago, and
right. And and it was in Mississippi. Where it happened. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of that, and that's where the thing. See, that's kind of the issue, right? It's like you have one case where, somebody admitted that they weren't telling the truth about a case, a situation, and the statute of limitations, I think, is in place where that person can't be prosecuted. And then you kind of do it on the flip side here with Cosby's case, where he was prosecuted. So it's real. That's kind of the concerns I tend to have with these kind of like cases and situations. Again, going back to a lot of the inequality. I guess that's why I wasn't really riled up like some other people were about the whole Cosby case, because I look at various degrees of what else is happening in this country when it comes to issues of statutes of limitation and issues with people of power when they get, or celebrity, or with a celebrity status, that get caught up in these kind of like scandals, and how did these legal things play out in each case? Because it seems like a lot of times they're not always the same, get the same kind of like results at the end, and how much of it is influenced by one's economic status or social status in this society. So it's kind of really hard to say, like, because each case is like just so different. So in a case with Cosby, if there was a statute of limitations situation, that plays in a lot. If people sign legal documents and pretty much settle, I feel like to some degree, when you settle, you're pretty much that you're ending it. This is how you decided to handle the situation. So if you decided to sign that document and be done with it, this is the way you're going to end it, then that's the way you end it. And if you didn't decide to sign an NDA, or you didn't have that presented to you, there is that option to pursue legal action. If if you can do it based on, again, the timeline.
But that's the thing. The woman who sent Bill Cosby to prison, she accepted $5 million. Only reason why the case went to trial because the statute of limitations, hadn't, I think something had to do with statute of limitations not running out or having run out, and
I think it probably maybe it run out or something. Did it run out? I think it ran out. I know it was a day. I think they had like one more day, if I'm not mistaken, or something. And for her to press charges or something like that. So, but the bottom line is that she did accept in 2015 or 16. She accepted $5 million from Bill Cosby because she settled out of court. So money was accepted. The question I'm asking people are, do you feel as though because she accepted this money and she settled out of court, should that be, like you were saying, she should, move on because, you agreed to that this was enough money for you to say, okay, I'm good. I don't know about enough money. The arrangement. Let's say the arrangement.
There was the arrangement enough. The arrangement. But, for you to put your name on it, it must be, because if it wasn't enough, then you wouldn't put your name on it.
Right.
Um, uh, so that's the question. On one hand, I think that all those are the legal things about it, but on the spiritual side of it, this person has committed um a crime, you
Did
know,
he? How do you know? How do you know as a spiritual person he did? Because
because if
because
I'm
you're not
oh,
because you're not, obviously you're not God, right?
no,
So
oh, of course not. No.
how do you determine from a spiritual perspective that he's guilty without coming across judgmental?
Well, I'm not a virgin. So I've had sex with people before. I've had sex with people before, and no one has ever um accused me that I'm aware of saying, "Hey, this DJ has slept with me while I was unconscious. Um, I was not awake. Have given me drugs during the process of any part of the date. No one has ever did that. So for someone to say, 50 plus women who I think are intelligent women. I mean, some of them are
that
sheroes to
present them
people.
that presented themselves as, because we don't know them.
Well,
How they present
all
themselves.
50 could be liars. All 50 could be liars. And but if there is even just one person out of that 50 plus women, if one person experienced being drugged and without their permission and being violated, even being drugged without permission, that's to me a violation of someone's humanity. That's just my feeling towards that.
Okay, so yeah, so you're generally speaking just from the perspective of when two people or people, because
Uh-huh.
it might be two, when people decide to engage in sexual activity, there should be some form of consensual agreement,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
So I guess between the two partners, they will have to determine what that agreement looks like, right? What is the agreement? What determines consensual sex?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just speaking, just
Mm-hmm.
generally,
In
like
general.
what is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
Yeah.
I said again, I don't know what happened with Down. Don't know any of that. But definitely, if women felt violated, they definitely need to come forward and share that. I just feel personally, don't let someone's social status intimidate you
Mm-hmm.
from not moving forward and pressing charges and so forth if need be. Because I just think again, this celebrity worship thing, it really has to like cease. It really, I mean, for me personally, I think it has to cease. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, it comes up with a lot of
The
unhealthy
person
issues.
will continue
To do it, yeah,
to
you
do
don't
that.
stop the cycle. It's like a
Right.
cycle, right? If you don't
Exactly.
break the cycle, if you don't stop the cycle, it just continues to
The
happen.
person continues.
And you have to also put into place, and that's kind of sort of what the Me Too movement, and as I said, and that's another topic to discuss, but that's kind of sort of what the Me Too movement, which I call probably the second wave of Me Too movement, because originally was founded by African American woman pushing, her message with the Me Too movement, and then some people feel it was co-op by the dominant society. I totally understand how they feel about that as well. But the Me Too movement, that's kind of the thing that was what it was supposed to be, like women expressing those concerns about being sexually harassed, sexually, violated, and so forth. And again, look how long it took the Me Too movement to really take off. It had to be a face of the dominant culture for it to be taken seriously. So then again, you kind of look at it and like, there's this race factor again. It's just like when the Black woman was talking about Me Too, you didn't hear a lot about it at the level you start to hear it, where then it just became everything because now it had a different face to it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's why I get concerned with sometimes Black people jumping in all these kind of like things that's really, when you really dissect it, it's like, well, why should you care now because there's another face in the messaging? Where were you when it was you, people who look like you? And not to discredit people's experiences of what they went through, but I'm always concerned sometimes in the midst of really like pushing to seek justice for people,
mm-hmm.
it has that, again, narrative of it has to be like a white woman to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm. So you feel as though those women, 50 plus women that came out against Bill Cosby, and I can't remember the woman's name who started the Me Too, the Black woman's name who started the Me Too movement. And I think that
Tamara Burke, that's her name.
Okay, Tamara Burke.
Tamara Burke, yeah.
And those 50 plus women were not confident enough to come out against Bill Cosby under Tamara Burke's movement or her initiative, but they felt confident enough to speak up when this other woman, who's a white woman, this actress, spoke up and said that Harvey Weinstein violated her. Race is always an impending undertow or overtow in every single situation in this country, because racism has been always been a large aspect of this country.
Exactly. I mean, that's fact. I mean, I know a lot of some people live in an idealistic view of a myth that like race isn't an issue, but it is. It was in the founding documents, the stuff they didn't teach you in school. I mean, the United States of America was created to be a white race nation. That's why you look at that the founding documents also declare the indigenous and the enslaved not even human. They call them that the enslaved Africans was 3/5 of a human, and indigenous was referenced as savages. This is the foundation.
Yeah, and there's always salt in the soup.
And it's part of the culture, unfortunately, because it's continued to be, taught and it's implemented through areas of society, including policy.
That's true. And so that's the one of the aspects of this Bill Cosby situation is race is a part of it. Like I said, another part of it is how flawed our court systems are, especially towards, and I say, to me, I'm always saying to people, the number one crime in this country is being Black and poor. And then because, Bill Cosby got off, but he would not have gotten off, and he would never be, his conviction would never been overturned if he wasn't a rich person. He didn't have money, didn't have power. And then the third aspect of it is that the aspect that I, really look at is the third issue, the three prone issue. The third prone is the one that I really focus on, is the spiritual aspect of it, that this person, to me, my opinion, has some real fucked up issues in terms of what turns him on sexually. What are your closing thoughts?
I look at it, that was years ago. I just see now the guy who's 80-something years old, late 70s.
He don't have a libido anymore. He can't even get it up without having some Cialis, the red pill.
It definitely looks like he has some health issues. Like I said, I think there's also a mental decline going there. He may not, you may not remember, or you're just spewing out things and you're like, where is this coming from? And I caught this in one of the things. This is when I knew, I said, okay, he's going through some kind of mental decline. He's walking with his people, and people are, the media doing what the media does, asking him questions. And it was just this random comment. He was like, he used the Fat Albert voice. He just said, hey, hey, hey. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Now, some people who like the show or who are fans of Cosby, whatever, they may find that funny and cute. But I said, no, this guy he might be dealing with dementia or something.
Do you think when you see Harvey Weinstein, and he's with that walker. Because you see him every time you see him on the news now, he has that walker, and he looks pretty sick when I see him on the news. Going now, I think he's now being tried in a different state now. Do you feel as though he deserved that same kind of sympathy for the old age that he's experiencing and the sickness that he's going through?
No, I mean, I don't see, I'm not looking at sympathy for both of them. It's just kind of what is. It's just like in Harvey Weinstein. I mean, he was definitely more powerful than Cosby. And he got away with probably a lot of, there's probably stuff that still hasn't even come out.
No, they haven't even they haven't even sliced,
it's just part, I think in his case, it appeared that a lot of his health stuff started when because of the circumstances of him being in prison, the stress and probably all the other stuff taking toll on him. I think it's the effect of him now being in that situation he's in versus Cosby, that's old age. I mean, that's age. He's getting older. That's what's happening. It's a health issue. But Weinstein is definitely the stress, the emotional stress he's probably dealing with now. Because of all the, all the stuff is coming, talk about the full circle, is coming to circle now. All the stuff he's been doing for years is coming full circle. And now he's in a different environment. He's not in the environments that he used to be in. And yeah, that is affecting his health, but it's not like in the sense of Cosby where I'm just like, yeah, dementia, Weinstein doesn't have dementia. I don't think he has dementia. He's not up in that age yet, or some kind of mental decline. That's the stress from being under the stuff he's dealing with now. But I don't have, I mean, either way, I mean, I'm just impartial. I don't have any, it's part of the process they're dealing with this. That's the thing he's dealing with his situation based on what he has done over the years. I see a lot of stuff with Weinstein as stress. Because if you were walking around fine, dandy, 1 minute, you go, and now you're in these like prisons or holding cells or whatever they're doing with him, and then you come out and you're like Walker. Yeah, that's stress. You're in a totally different environment. You don't know what's going to happen to you. You're just kind of like, it's a total 180 from where he used to be. But honestly, no, I don't have any sympathy because I felt he lived from him being in that industry. I'm sure he lived a pretty good life.
Yeah, I think both of them live pretty good lives, and regardless of his dementia or if it's just the stress of dealing with the crimes that you committed and being dragged around state to state because you have to go through all these hearings. I think it's just it's just sad. I think it's just very, very sad for both people.
Yeah, I think it's an unfortunate situation for everyone involved. I think it's it's really unfortunate. But that's, again, when you speak from things spiritual, I guess that's the importance of, like, a lot of spiritual people like to talk about raising consciousness and elevating consciousness. And that has to be the collective of people who have to set new standards now. It's like, this is not going to be the standard of how we do things in Hollywood. This is why that Me Too movement was, I guess, important. They were calling out the stuff in Hollywood. What are the standards you're going to set moving forward that's going to stop this kind of behavior happening in your profession, in your industry? Or some people, that's why you see a lot of people now are moving away. And again, the independent productions and things like that are being created right now because they are saying, I don't want to deal with that. Those, whether it's discrimination or the sexual, like, challenges, issues, the harassment, that kind of thing that's happening in that industry. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing now. Yeah,
because they don't want to deal with the craziness and the nonsense, the problems.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think that karma is it's a bitch. And she's a fierce one.
Well, people, it's like in some traditions they do talk about that, like the reaping and sowing. It's just a matter of being mindful of what you put out there.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, whatever you say, are you going to be able to handle whatever consequences come back at you? Right. And unfortunately, and just in some cases, people, they create a problem that they don't need to create. They really, it's like, unfortunately, people have agendas and they create problems or situations where these, I mean, I'm not, and this is not in a sense, this is just the cultures. Again, if you're married, you probably should be with your wife.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you
on.
know the man is married, you should probably stay away. That kind of thing. It's like,
right.
Don't
create. Yeah, if you don't start no mess, won't be none, right?
That's how we grew up. They're like, you don't start anything, won't be anything. So I didn't like starting anything unless it's good things. It's like I'm not into drama. So it's like, if it sounds like it could become a problem, let's not make it a problem.
I heard that.
Because I mean, again, like you talk about karma, I'm like, you strive for good karma. So what can I do to continue to create good karma? And if I do things that are a mistake that could be not so good karma, what can I do to rectify that situation to make it better?
Yeah, that's called the law of grace, And I think that that's a whole nother conversation. And I think how we put people, like you said earlier, put people on a pedestal and
not put people on a pedestal. That's the big one.
And that's, I think it's subconsciously we do that, subconsciously putting people on pedestals for the good they do or even the bad they do. And I think that's a mistake, because then you have this thing that you're going to have to deal with, when you're asking yourself, should I listen to, R. Kelly song? Should I watch the Cosby Show? And it's like, because you put a person on the pedestal, you feel as though I can't just listen to this because this person has failed. And I'm like, I never put them on the pedestal anyway, so I never have to, question, should I listen to this song or should I watch this show? Because they never been that for me anyway. I think, go ahead.
I look at it from a perspective of money and like, did you financially contribute to any of these individuals? And if the answer is no, I'm like,
yeah, but I mean, there's some crazy people who do artwork. I mean, there's some crazy artists out there. I mean, crazy artists musical artists and visual artists. That and crazy people have done. Just everyday people, and we purchase and we buy. And they may reap the benefits of it. Maybe their families reap the benefit of it, but we support so many people that are on the wrong side of life, make the bad decisions. But the question is that, are we angry at them or not? If we're angry, are we still mad at him? Okay, well, I don't listen to his music. We still pissed off at him, what he did? Well, I'm not going to support that. So it's like, I feel like, what is the line here? It's about my enjoyment. If I'm going to enjoy something, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm able to separate the art from the artist.
Yeah, I was going to say separate the art from the artist. And then the other thing in this culture, in this society, I see a lot is the selective outrage. And that's kind of my take with the Cosby. Selective outrage?
Yeah.
I'll use an example. My favorite example. Like things like 9/11, Holocaust, some other major events where they tell people to never forget. But when you talk about slavery, what do they tell you with slavery?
Well,
get over it.
Get over it, yeah.
So I'm like, another time that came up was with what's his name? The former football, I don't even know if he still plays football. Michael Vick. So people were saying, I'm not going to forgive him and this, that, da, 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 da. But then again, I said, but they'll say that. So I said, but they'll tell Black people again to get over it, or we should forgive and move on. They tell us to move on. So Michael Vick's thing happened years ago, and you're still mad about that. But if we're still upset with all the injustices as a people we've experienced here, you're telling us to get over it. Mm-hmm, so I shut those conversations down with people quickly, because I'm like, no, that's disrespectful, because you're telling me that your things are more important than mine.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's not to negate anything else. And
it's dismissive. It's just dismissive. And,
you're being
yeah. Yeah, that's what it is.
You don't like it because it makes you don't like it because it makes you feel a certain way, uncomfortable in a certain way.
Yeah, it makes you feel convicted that you're benefiting from the results of that. So yeah, I mean, that's that's definitely another part of the conversation. When you say there's salt in all the soup,
Right.
salt in every single soup.
So that's what it said. That's why sometimes I see with the Cosby situation was selective outrage. Because I said, think again, we're going back to things like, you have a human trafficking problem, you have a pedophilia problem, you have a lot of, sexual kind of misconduct and abusive behaviors out here. But we're still only focusing on like the power players, the people who are celebrities. Yeah, because I said, can you imagine if the consciousness shift?
Well, it is shifting. I believe the work that we're doing is definitely shifting consciousness, maybe not as fast as we would like, but I think that the work that we do does shift consciousness. I think that this conversation that we're having and the people that are listening to it are giving them some thoughts that they maybe hadn't thought about before. And maybe we're giving them a perspective that they haven't considered. So, now we're doing the work.
Yeah.
So how can people get a hold of you?
Oh, cool. I'll say the best way to reach me is through my TV productions website. That's www.interfaithconnections with the S at the end .com, and you can find me there. Or if you're interested in joining the meetup to hang out with us virtually on Pub Theology, you can go to meetup.com/interfaith connections, and you can reach out to me on both platforms.
And I'll include those links inside of the show description, and also any other links that Jackie provides me, so you can get a hold of her. And as well, you can get in contact with me. I have my information down in the show description. And I'm so thankful that Jackie joined us this week. And if you missed part 1 of our conversation, I will leave the link to part 1 of our discussion. And definitely she'll be back in the future, hopefully, to have more wonderful, wonderful conversations, because she's so insightful. And so thank you, Jackie, for joining us.
Oh, sure. You're welcome. Always great to share my perspective on things with you and your audience. Definitely enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the invitation.
You're welcome. I take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.